And a very happy Wednesday to you at 12:08 in the West. It's the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wangs in Culver City.
John, yesterday we told you that the LA City Council was playing some weird games with our favorite gadflies at public comment. Well, today they actually let our buddy 3-inch Shrimp speak, and he had some words for the crooked LA City Council.
Good morning, Speaker. What is the name you sign up under? Absolutely, City Attorney.
Hey, did we just get a absolutely from him?
I think we did.
Maybe he does listen to the show.
Good morning, Speaker. What is the name you sign up under? Absolutely, City Attorney. The
Speaker,
name is...
not your time yet. We haven't started your time. So you have 3 minutes for the items and 1 minute for general public comment. Okay? So I'll let you stand up and then we will start your time.
The name I sign up under is Kendra Sunderland. Thank you very much.
I wonder if she's a porn star, too.
Probably.
The name I sign up under is Kendra Sunderland. Thank you very much. Start with item number 31. 没关系，不论失去了什么，都没痕迹。
Yeah, it was another one of those days.
Do they realize that the more that they try to crack down on them, the more they're going to get?
顾不顾将相王后，管不管万事千秋，求只求爱化解这红尘纷乱永无休。爱更爱天长地久，要更要似水温柔，谁在乎谁主春秋？
How dare they pause his time? That's the most entertaining part of the meeting.
They're going to screw with his rhythm.
Now, of course, after he sings all through the items that he's supposed to speak, when it comes to general public comment, he's got a bone to pick with the city attorney.
General public comment. Mr. City Attorney, I would like to bring your first attention that the black lady sitting behind Mr. Herman said, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill your dog. So this is my first issue with you. I want to make sure you protect Mr. Herman. Item issue number 2.
This is the most insane place in the world.
It's really hard to think of a place that's crazier than this one.
And constantly, members of the city council send in elementary schools so they can learn how local government works. That is not a safe environment for children. I would argue it's not a safe environment for adults.
Okay, what's crazier, an LA City Council meeting or the departures gate for Spirit Airlines?
LA City Council meeting, every single time.
Item issue number 2. Yesterday, you told me that I need to go back to my seats and waiting for my name to be called. I follow your order because I don't want to get arrested by our LAPD. However, after when I take a seat, and then your friend announced there will be no more public comment, there will be no more name will be called. So I find it's contradictory. Your instruction told me go back to my seats and waiting for my name to be called. When I take a seat waiting for my name, there's no more name. So I just want to make sure, Mr. City Attorney, you do not have to discriminate me just because of my 3-inch size.
Oh, no.
He's going to get into that, huh?
And you only allow 24-inch size speaker to speak. I want to make sure it doesn't matter if a speaker has a 3-inch or 24-inch. Everybody can be treated equally in the city council, and I will continue to respect your instruction. I'll always follow your order.
I wonder if I had known this, if I would have continued to work on a bachelor's and master's degree in political science when I was a student. Or maybe I would have decided to just get a degree in history and learn about Napoleon instead. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. Well, yesterday we told you it's official that former Fox News host and Republican Steve Hilton is officially a candidate for governor here in California. He had his big announcement at the pier in Huntington Beach, and now he's making himself available for media interviews. And Randy, the first place he stopped was over at Fox 11.
It seems like it's a rite of passage at this point. When you announce that you're running for governor, you immediately go to Fox 11 in Los Angeles and do a 20-minute interview for Alex Michelson that maybe 10 minutes of it makes it to air, but Alex puts up the whole thing on YouTube just for me. That's where we discovered Javier Bacaria's favorite thing to do.
Scrub it.
He must be the cleanest person on planet Earth.
By the way, I watched and listened to all of Steve Hilton's speech, his big announcement in Huntington Beach. And he did a whole run on making fun of Javier Baccaria being on Alex Michelson talking about the scrub-a-dub-dub.
I think he heard that interview on this program.
That's what we do here. Let's hear what Steve Hilton has to say about some of his potential competition in the governor's race, including also declared candidate Riverside Sheriff Chad Bianco.
You talked about the fact that we don't have party primaries anymore running for governor. But if we did, your toughest competitor right now would be Sheriff Chad Bianco. You both are going for Republican votes right now. What's your take on Sheriff Bianco and why you think you're better than him?
Well, I'm not.
Alex is stirring the pot.
We like that.
Well, I'm not. I'm going for everybody's support because, as I said, we've got to do this together to make our state what it really should be. I'm focused on the fact that we've got to.
Steve Hilton, not a politician, but day one has learned the I'm focused on deflection.
Yeah, I hope that doesn't become a habit.
I'm focused on the fact that we've got to change direction. And in the end, that means changing from this one part. We had 15 years of one-party rule. So I think the purpose of this election is to see who is going to be the best candidate to make that change happen. And I'm going for it, and the sheriff is going for it, and we'll see. I'm focused on making the argument for change and being the best person to credibly offer this.
But why are you better than him?
Oh, Alex is drilling down on that pot stirring.
It also goes to show you how different so many of the candidates are from Trump, because he's trying to be diplomatic here. But imagine if Trump was asked that question. Why are you better than him? He's a loser. He couldn't beat an egg. I'm a winner. I'm going to win the election.
I wouldn't make the comparison specifically. I would just say I've got a track record of leadership on the issues. Remember, back in the pandemic, when everyone else said, got to shut everything down, I was one of the first people to say no, to stand up against the groupthink and to say we've got to actually open things up, follow the science on so many issues, on our relationship with China.
He didn't like Barbara Ferrer either, did he?
Nope, I think he hated her just as much as we did.
On our relationship with China. For years, I was arguing about that before people now. There's a consensus about that. On many issues, I've had a leading role, and I think specifically working across a range of policy inside of a government to make change happen.
So he doesn't take the bait or even just do anything about that one on Bianco. He deflects. But when he's asked about another potential candidate, Rick Caruso, he goes for it.
What about Rick Caruso, who was a Republican, may run as a Democrat?
Our bottom line would really like that.
Oh, we'd make budget.
Some might argue that's a better way to win. What do you make of him?
Well, the interesting thing, Alex, about Rick Caruso is it's striking that this is someone who became a Democrat at the height of the far-left lunacy that the Democratic Party fell into. And I just don't understand that. I also...
Well, he thought it was a strategy to win, and it wasn't.
Yes. Let's talk about that for a second, because typically what happens when you switch parties and you become a convert is you go all in. I always like to say the only Catholics I know who eat fish on Fridays are the converts, because you have something to prove. What was so odd about Caruso was that he switched his party affiliation, but his ideology didn't change at all. He was still the same guy, which meant a lot of Democratic voters didn't trust him, and a lot of Republicans were suspicious because that didn't make any sense. And what I think it ultimately boiled down to was that consultants convinced him that he was unelectable as a Republican, so he had to switch his party affiliation and become a Democrat.
Well, those consultants didn't do him any favors, and they made a lot of money off of him, Smith.
Oh, they could put their kids through USC twice.
I also don't understand why, when he's making the case, I think very convincingly, that we need a change of leadership here in Los Angeles after the catastrophe of the wildfires and the response, Rick Caruso came out against the recall that myself and Nicole Shanahan, who was Bobby Kennedy's running mate in the presidential election, we've been working together on a recall. Rick Caruso said, no, we don't need a recall. And I just don't understand that. I think that if you really believe in change, you've got to fight for it and argue for it.
Well, on that one, I think Caruso is right. Karen Bass is far stronger and better off in a recall setting than she is in a general election. And if the general election were today, she'd lose. But in a recall election, she has more tools in the toolbox. She can rally all the troops and raise as much money as possible. And if they don't get the signatures, for example, then it looks like they don't have the ability or public support behind the cause. But if you just wait until the next scheduled election, she's going to go through bad news cycle after bad news cycle after bad news cycle, and she's going to have to adhere to all of the campaign limits, of which there are many in the city of Los Angeles.
Well, not only that, but if you look at the timeline, if the signatures got collected on time and everything was counted on time, the soonest that question would be on the ballot is next year's June primary.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense.
Now let's hear what Steve Hilton has to say about another candidate for governor. I'm sorry, Biden, what is his name again?
For Secretary of Health and Education Service, I nominated Javier Baccaria.
I do want to give Steve Hilton some advice because he did a whole run on this on stage. You need to have a button where you can just play that drop. Having a soundboard makes everything better, buddy. All right, let's hear what he had to say about Baccaria and the Scrub-a-Dub-Dub.
You talked about during your launch campaign.
Yeah, Alex got a shout out, and Alex loved this.
Oh, I'm sure.
You talked about during your launch campaign watching our show.
Yes.
And you saw our interview with Javier Becerra.
Yes.
And I talked to him about changes for housing affordability.
Yes.
I don't think you were impressed by his answer where he talked about scrubbing the system.
Oh, he talked about scrubbing a lot of things.
You notice that he went dark? He's not doing interviews now?
Well, he shouldn't do interviews. Every single interview is crash and burn. Watching him on a television set is like watching an old drunk man drive down an icy road.
There are, I think, 10 prominent declared candidates, well, prominent relatively speaking, that have declared for governor. And after their first initial interview on a place like this, and maybe they go up to Sacramento and talk to Ashley Zavala, you never hear from them again. Where's Katie Porter been the last 2 months?
I wish Alex asked him about Katie Porter, because every time you hit that pinata, candy comes out.
He did not ask about Katie Porter, but maybe he will next time.
Yes.
What do you make of him as a competitor and your thoughts on his interview with us?
Well, I think it's astonishing, honestly, that someone who says there. Well, first of all, let's remember what he said in his announcement video, which was that the California dream, which was there for his parents, is not there now. He's right. I agree with that. But who destroyed that California dream? Javier Becerra's party and its policies, because no one else has been around. They've been in charge for 15 years of one-party rule. So that's the first point.
Actually, we got to update that. It's almost 20.
Oh, it's been a long time.
I mean, 2006 was 19 years ago.
One-party rule. So that's the first point. How can the people who made the mess be the ones to clear it up? But secondly, when you asked him about what he says is his number one priority, dealing with the affordability crisis, he just talked basically gibberish. You can't do that.
Well, he also referenced a 1950s toothpaste commercial.
Scrub it.
What do you think happened to him? Do you think he just winged the interview, or do you think he's been in politics too long, where I guess he thinks he has all the answers and he really doesn't have any? Or did he experience some kind of brain damage?
I think he did zero research. I think he is hot on his own property. He thinks, hey, I was in the federal government. I was attorney general. I was in Congress. I got this.
We'll just wing it.
Scrub it.
No need to read the paper. We'll just go out there and, go freeform.
You can't.
I mean, to Steve Hilton's credit, before announcing his run, he put out a book that's nothing but policy on things that he would do to change the state.
Well, and unlike Javier Becerra, he actually read a book, too.
You can't do that. This is serious. This is, as you mentioned, leadership of the fifth largest economy in the world. We've got to have people who understand policy, who understand how to implement policy, and who've got clear ideas for how we get California back on track.
Javier Becerra has a clear idea on how to get those pearly whites shining.
Scrub it.
If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, if you want to go back and find out what you missed out on yesterday, if you were at work or on an airplane and missed the show for one reason or another, that's easy to do.
All you got to do is search for The John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's the Apple Podcast app, iHeart, Spotify. Search for The John Phillips Show. Hit subscribe. You can download all the episodes. That way, you'll be in the know about exactly what crazy crap Pamela Price is saying without having to actually subscribe to her podcast.
She won't prosecute cases.
Let's go to Dale in Long Beach. Dale, hello.
Yeah, listening to him is like listening to Pierce Morgan and Mr. Belvedere. I figure sounds like he's my butler or something. I mean, his policies are probably good. He's got common sense and everything, but people aren't going to want to listen to that. I mean, I'm sorry to say it.
Now, you don't like the accent. Now, we know that politicians sometimes have accents. Arnold Schwarzenegger, former governor, had an Austrian accent. And, Randy, what about when Barbara Ferrer was workshopping that Valley Girl accent? You remember that?
The evidence is like crystal clear on that.
What did you make of her Valley Girl accent?
I didn't like that either. I just don't figure most people are going to go for that. I don't really figure he has a great chance. I mean, I could be wrong, but I just don't see it happening.
He will have a great poll in people who prefer Love Island UK to Love Island USA. Which is me.
Thanks, fellas. Have a good day.
All right. Thanks for the call.
To be totally honest, Love Island Australia is better than all of them.
All right. Let's throw that question out there because this is something that could have an impact on the election. Does the fact that Steve Hilton has an accent, does it bother you? Would that impact you on who you vote for governor? He's from England. He has a British accent. Dale in Long Beach doesn't like it. He's not going to vote for someone with an accent. Will that impact how you vote for governor? 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. Right now, we're taking your calls at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. We've been listening to the sound of candidate for governor Steve Hilton sitting down with Fox 11's Alex Michelson. Dale from Long Beach just called in and said he's not going to vote for any candidate with an accent. He sounds like a butler, Mr. Belvedere, Jeeves, all of them combined. Will the fact that Steve Hilton has an accent affect your vote for governor in 2026? Now, before we go to the phones at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222, I will say this. Remember back when Air America was a thing?
For like 5 whole minutes?
Yeah, that was the liberal talk radio network when they decided that Rush Limbaugh was dominating the AM band and there needed to be a liberal counterpart. So Air America was their response to Rush Limbaugh. And there was an Air America affiliate station in the LA market, and I knew someone who worked over there. And when they started this, they did a bunch of research on the audience and the potential audience. And one of the things they found that I remember was that for whatever reason, liberals believe that if you have a British accent, you're smarter. And they respond better to it. So many of those Air America stations hired imaging voices. These are the people that read the ads, and when you're coming back from a break, they say you're listening to KABC or KSFO, whatever. They hired people with British accents to be the imaging voices of those stations because their audience responded so well to it. Why? I don't know.
I will say, I specifically choose the British instructors on Peloton because I like them more. They're very eloquent.
Well, listen, when I get my instructions on where to turn when I'm driving to a location that I've never been to before from my phone, I wish I could have Pamela Price being the audio version of it.
She called me a crime boss.
All right, what say you? Will you vote for a candidate for governor with an accent? 800-222-5222. Let's go to Steve in Diamond Bar. Steve, hello.
Hi, John. You know, the problem with elections in California is we choose fools like Gavin Newsom and Ricardo Lara because they are so adorable and sound good. They don't do anything good. And you got a guy like Steve Hilton that they won't give a second thought to because he's got an accent. Golly, what could go wrong?
Yeah, accents have never bothered me. In fact, I kind of find them to be endearing, some more than others. But the British accent in particular, it just doesn't bother me at all. I kind of like it.
That and apparently Pamela Anderson.
But she has an accent? Thank you for the call. I know Barbara Ferrer has the Valley Girl accent. I didn't know. Pamela's from Canada.
The evidence is like crystal clear on that.
Does she have a Canadian accent? I don't know.
Does she say a boot?
She could. Maybe she won't be coming back to Palm Springs, too. Let's go to Nina in Orange County. Nina, hello.
Hi. I would vote somebody based on their intelligence and their solutions over an accent. And I don't think Steve Hilton is a vapid English accent. And I just think this is such an important election for California, almost as important as Trump was for the country. We need to turn California. We're suffering. I have heard that Rick Caruso might run, and even Rick Grinnell, but I think Rick Grinnell is probably going to end up at the UN. But I think all three would be great candidates, and they all bring a level of intelligence and solutions to our issues.
Well, thank you so much for the call. And she referenced Donald Trump, Randy. And what's interesting about Trump is Trump has a very thick New York accent. And a lot of people around the country hate New York, whether it is due to sports teams, whether it's due to sort of a brash attitude that you assume that many people from that state, that region have. And when he ran in 2016, I remember that being a subject that was brought up and discussed. Will people not like him because they think he's a pushy New Yorker?
Yeah, Ted Cruz got into a whole thing by saying we don't want Donald Trump and his New York values. And Donnie from Queens didn't take that sitting down.
No, he didn't. That's when we found out that it was Ted Cruz's dad who killed Kennedy. Let's go to Klaus in Thousand Oaks. Klaus, hello.
Hey, John. Hey, Randy. I don't think his accent should be a problem. You can understand him clearly and concisely, unlike a lot of candidates that just mumble and repeat themselves. I find it to be incredibly shallow for Dale and others across the state who would vote for somebody based on their accent.
Well, and here's the other thing. At least it's a legitimate accent. How often do you hear politicians go into a black church, or AOC recently went down to the southwest of the United States, and she sounded like the ladies from Reseda? And I have heard her on television for years now, and not once have I ever heard that accent. And then she comes down to Arizona, and that's what she sounds like.
Exactly. Steve Hilton, again, you can understand him, and he's authentic. He's not faking it. He's not trying to develop a typical California accent, which is a lack of an accent. And it's just, this is the problem with Californian voters for the most part. They're incredibly stupid. They don't vote on policy. And this, because of our stupid voters, we get ourselves in the mess we're in. Just look at the election in Oakland. They voted for Chang Tao 2.0. It's just like, what are we doing? It's just you got to vote on policy, folks. You can't focus on the accent.
You know who always had a weird accent, but I was never able to identify where it came from? Was Jerry Brown. Jerry Brown is from California. He was raised here. He was born here. But he sounds like the stand-up comic Bob Odenkirk.
That might just be the infusion of all the influences he got from universities and people he looked up to, and he just morphed into the Jerry Brown accent.
All right. Thank you for the call.
You know, I always had a different opinion. I always thought Jerry Brown's accent is what Californians sounded like in 1850.
Well, that's when he was born, right?
Exactly.
Before we came into the Union. All right. Let's go to Mary in San Francisco. Mary, hello.
Hello. Yes, I would vote for John Hilton. If he's an American independent or Republican, I voted for Arnold Schwarzenegger twice, despite the accent.
Now, what about Steve Hilton? John Hilton, I don't know about him, but Steve, he seems like a good guy.
Yeah. If he's American independent or Republican, he'll get it despite any accent.
All right. Thank you for the call. Let's go to Barbara in Los Angeles. Barbara, hello.
Hi, John. You know, I lived in England a long, long time ago. I was born in this country. I don't mind the accent or the lack thereof. I like the guy. I like Steve Hilton. I've heard him speak a lot before. What I like about his voice is it's strong and he has diction. I can understand what he's saying. And he's conservative. So I don't know how he'll do with all the competition, but I'm going to vote for him.
All right. Thank you for the call.
I love what she said, and I wonder if people's opinion would be different if Steve Hilton's British accent was chimney sweep.
Oh, yeah. If he had a Cockney accent.
Hello, governor.
Yeah, I don't believe in discriminating against people due to an accent, but if that's what he sounded like, I don't know if I'd put that guy in charge of the budget.
Accents don't matter to me, but I'm not voting for Governor Eliza Doolittle.
All right, let's go to Anna in Burbank. Anna, hello. Anna, are you there? Going once, going twice. No, Anna. Let's go to Linda in Culver City. Linda, welcome.
I know somebody already said it, but we had the governor, so what is wrong with an accent? Anyone who has common sense, morals, and dignity to the office, I'll take. Thank you.
Stop whining.
800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. Steve Hilton is from England. He is now a candidate for governor here in California. He made his declaration yesterday, made it official, sat down for an interview with Fox 11's Alex Michelson. We played some of that sound for you. Dale in Long Beach called in and said he's not voting for him. He doesn't like the accent. Does Steve Hilton's British accent offend you? Does it bother you? Would it impact whether or not you vote for him for governor? We're curious to hear from you at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. Steve Hilton, who is from England, is now a candidate for governor in California. Will his British accent impact who you vote for governor in 2026? 800-222-5222. Let's go to Brenda in L.A. Brenda, hello.
Wait, I don't have a Brenda.
All right. Well, how about Rob in San Jose?
I got Rob.
Well, I would definitely trust Steve Hilton. I've seen his commentary on Fox. He's pro-law enforcement. He's called out Newsom and all the outrageous gas taxes and possibility to afford to even homestead or retire here. And Chad Bianchi, Doug LaMalfa, Carl Miley, these are our guys. And we don't need any more of these confiscatory laws, all the Newsom and all the race baiting from a trifecta of black women like Barbara Lee, Maxine Waters, and of course Kamala Harris. She went after. She's a mean-spirited lady. She's all for. She buried David Daleiden with Javier Becerra when he had evidence of these fetal body parts being put, out the back there of Planned Parenthood and all sorts of what else did she be for? Raising taxes through the roof. Confiscatory, and and being pro-crime. When the Black Lives Matter thing happened, immediately she writes a law that you can steal $999 worth of stuff. This is ridiculous. None of the opposition is going to be for that, whether Bianchi or Hilton. I think they're all great people. I think I'm not going to vote for the opposition.
Okay. Thank you for the call, sir.
I didn't know Bianchi was running, but I'll check him out.
I think he bought a vowel.
Thanks for the call.
Let's go to Rima in L.A. Rima, hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Hi. I'm gonna vote for Steve Hilton. I'm not holding his accent against him. I have accent myself after being here 40 years. So I'm going to vote based on the experience and the reasoning of what's behind their agenda. Didn't we end up, all of us, most of us people voted for Newsom based on the look? Otherwise, he hasn't done anything for us except putting us in debt.
All right. Thank you for the call. Let's go to John in L.A. John, hello.
Hey, guys. May I pay a compliment to your call screener?
Sure.
Yeah, he's a wonderful young man. Very respectful, very polite. I've called other radio stations, and the call screeners usually have a pretty nasty attitude. So,
is that because of them or because of you?
I don't know. And I wanted to say so. I don't know if I should say it, but I stopped calling Randy's show at 5:00 because the call screener there is not.
Okay. Do you have something to say about Steve Hilton, John?
I do, actually. Do you know he still owns a flip phone?
A flip phone?
He's been known to say this is the flip phone that's going to flip California red. But people vote here in California, they vote based on race and gender, and they don't vote on meritocracy. And I know it's going to end up being Harris because she's been making the rounds at the churches. She's saying she's not going anywhere. And Javier Baccaria already said that he's going to step aside if she runs and
scrub it.
Have you scrubbed it lately, John?
Huh?
Have you scrubbed it?
Scrub what?
Scrub it.
Thank you for the call. I had to cut that off before he answered because the way you asked that question, if he's not familiar with what you're referring to, we were about to go off a cliff.
Your teeth.
Scrub it.
Let's go to Steve in Huntington Beach. Steve, hello.
Hi, John. First-time caller.
Thank you.
My comment is very simple. If you have R in front of your name and you're in California, you will not get elected. Could be elected in the past, not anymore.
So you think it's a moot point because of his party affiliation? He is not a viable candidate.
He is viable, but define viable. He's not going to get elected because there are too many sheep here.
All right. Thank you for the call. Hope that left turn goes okay. Let's go to Ben in Beverly Hills. Ben, hello.
Well, I would have agreed with your previous caller years ago, but I do believe we're seeing the ratification of California. I mean, I'm a real liberal and a lifetime Democrat, but I quit in 2004. I don't think Kerry was serious. I don't think Gore was serious. Certainly, Joe Lieberman wasn't serious because he allowed the 2000 thing to happen. It doesn't seem like the Democrats have a backbone, a spine, a stomach, or an agenda of any type. And I certainly would not vote for Kamala Harris. If you look at her poll numbers in Southern California, African Americans down here hate her. She's a hypocrite. She takes the oath of office to defend the Constitution, and the first thing she does is violate ballot measure 8, which was just voted in to oppose gay marriage. So I don't believe Kamala Harris has any integrity at all. She won't say what she's running for president. Why would she care about California? We're a stepping stone to her ill-fated, failed ambitions. And so I would vote for the Republican just out of protest. I'm really interested in purifying the Democratic Party. That's not going to happen if we keep putting these frauds in power. Are missing money from the homeless. They're letting the water run out to the ocean.
It's
All right.
dry.
We're up against a hard break here, so I got to run, but I understand the sentiment. Thank you so much for the call, sir.